Hello. In today's video, I will talk about the Hermit, who is card 9 of the Major Arcana. So, how I understand the Hermit is I think of him as connected to the Buddha family, Ratna, which is the element is the earth, and so it's grounded. It is the ground. The color is yellow. It's about abundance and equanimity and understanding and appreciating the richness of, just of life, or the richness of one's path, or it's about richness. It's about, that kind of plenty. I think about this card as related to that energy because the Hermit has kind of discovered that he is and has enough. He's no longer looking to validate himself in the world. He's no longer looking for this external approval, but he has found his place in being. I think of him as, he's exploring his path and he's exploring his world, and he's finding meaning in all of it. He is in his wisdom state. He's dealing with meditation and retreat. He's dealing with introspection, spiritual mastery. He's dealing with, I often think of him as like a teacher for those who are ready, but he's going to be the kind of teacher who instructs the student to sit all day, or to kind of I think of like the drums in playing in meter, where you really have to let go of the ego in order to hear and play in meter. And I think of him in that way, like he's that teacher. He's like grounded, and he's going to instruct. Like, don't move too fast. You're going to have to just sit here and like listen, right? I think about that as connected to the Ratna energy because it feels very like grounded. It feels like it doesn't have a lot of motion, right? And the earth, when it moves, it often doesn't move very quickly or very much, right? Just a little bit of rumble and people are like, oh my goodness, the ground is, shifting underneath of me. That's like a huge event, right? When the earth actually starts moving and shifting. And so I often think of the Hermit in that way. Like he's going off, he's sitting still. He is, I often think about him as related to like the monk or the nun who's in like deep contemplation and deep study, deep service, who has kind of stepped away from conventions and is understanding and serving a higher purpose. This card is very, very dear to me. It's an energy that I understand very well, and it's an energy that manifests in this way for me. There are times when I wish, my energy was a little more fiery and seductive, or a little more, fun. Like attracting, the beautiful men or something like this, right? But that's not my energy. I'm more like this guy here, where I am really okay in my own space. I'm really okay sitting alone, and this has been a theme throughout my life. My father shared a story with me when he was passing. In fact, he asked me this question: when I was very young, I would crawl up the stairs. I wasn't even able to walk yet, and I would crawl up the stairs and sit in a back room, and I would sit by myself. And sometimes I would just sit there in silence, and sometimes I would talk to myself, and sometimes I would play alone. And I would often, sometimes it would just be dark in the room, and I would just go, and I would go to this room and just sit. And he asked me why. And at the time, I could not answer that, and still, of course, I cannot answer because I do not remember. But I know that that energy is an energy that's very old for me, that ability to kind of go off and sit and be in meditation or be in deep thought, contemplation. And apparently, I guess it's a part of, how my soul was called. And I often think about the hermit and think about, this just kind of deep love and respect and appreciation for that kind of energy that has this ability to just sit still. In his neurotic state, the hermit is dealing with, he's grasping and he's dealing with gluttony and starvation. He's cut off from the abundance of the world and the abundance of his being and the abundance of his life. And, just the richness of existence. And he is, working with starvation, working with poverty. He loses his focus, he loses his path. The meditation is no longer working for him. This card in its creation was one of the 3 cards. Yeah, I think before I said 2, I think it was 3 cards that actually maintained a great deal of their integrity going from paper into the final product. And this is one of those cards. His outline did not change at all from paper through the 3 stages of development, through 3 major stages of development. And his scenery changed. On paper, he had no scenery. The first iteration in electronic form, he had trees, but they were different and they were more spread out. And then this iteration of him, he has these different trees. His staff did change and became a bit more substantial. Before it was just like a little line. And so his staff did become more substantial, but that's basically the only change that he went through, going from the paper into the final iteration of the card. I think that's significant because he didn't need a lot. He didn't need, once he arrived, he was complete. You can put him in a different room, right? But he still maintains his integrity, and he's still, like, he arrived and he was just as he is. I don't know if that is because I understand this energy so well, and so every deck that I've checked out, I've loved this card. Like, the Hermit is one of the cards that I'm attracted to, I'm drawn to, and I understand pretty well. And so maybe it's because of that he didn't change much. He just came to me. He's like, this one. It almost feels like that. Like he was like, you know who I am. You are connected to who I am. And so, the Hermit, my very beloved energy of retreat and contemplation, of getting away and spiritual knowledge and understanding and Um, yeah, that's him, the Hermit. In the next video, I will talk about, what am I talking about in the next video? Card 10, the Wheel of Fortune. I look forward to sharing that video with you next, but I would like to thank you for joining me in this very brief talk about the Hermit.